Times have certainly changed. Japanese culture is no longer this niche thing in the West. It's more popular than ever before.
Tension?
From anime to video games, you name it. If there's a good game being made in Japan, there is a very strong chance it'll get localized. This was not always the case though. Countless bangers never left Japan back in the day, especially RPGs. And that's exactly what brings us here today. We're gonna highlight some RPGs that never saw an official Western release. Official, that is. Half of the titles in this video will have English fan translations, making them fully playable. The other half won't though because, well, I kinda wanna inspire some people to work on them. Plus, we also gotta show off some of the games we got from Japan a few months ago. Yeah, we got a lot. By the way, this is a part 2 to a video we did a few years ago, so if you haven't seen that one yet, check it out. Alright, without further ado, let's just get into it. Here's an unranked list of 8 great JRPGs that never left Japan. Part 2.
The light is your guide.
A dream is what keeps you going.
Now is the time to shape your story. Your fate is in your hands.
And to start off this list, we have a very strange one with Linda Cube. Linda Cube was co-developed by Alpha System and Mars Corporation. It was originally released for the PC Engine, then it later got enhanced ports to the PS1 and Sega Saturn, the PS1 version being called Linda Cube again, and the version we'll be talking about today. It's the only one that has an English fan translation. Holy shit, is this game weird as hell though. In a good way. I mean, look at this monster design, dude. It's so otherworldly and creepy and just really unique. By the way, how dope is this concept art? Probably some of the coolest I've ever seen. It was done by one of the main artists from the Akira movie, and it's not hard to tell. I just love this style. The game takes place on the planet Neo Kenya. The planet is set to be destroyed by a meteor in 8 years, so then God sends down an ark for you to capture 2 of every creature and make your escape. Yeah, it's like a take on Noah's Ark, at least an initial premise. It takes some very out there turns later that I won't spoil, as the less you know about this game, the better. It's quirky, it's terrifying, it's deep, it's like a little bit of everything. Gameplay wise, the battle system is pretty basic turn-based stuff, nothing you haven't seen before. The stuff around combat, like getting monsters to appear, is pretty cool though. It's a bit like Monster Hunter in this aspect. Oh yeah, the whole meteor coming in 8 years thing, that factors into gameplay as well. If you like the timer mechanic in games like Majora's Mask for example, you'll probably like it here too. Oh yeah, there's also multiple scenarios, giving the game some replayability. There's a new ending for each one, so this is pretty cool. I do also want to point out the atmosphere and the presentation. All the anime cutscenes, complete with the voice acting, really immerse you into the game's world. The music is top-notch as well. It's got this really different type of sound, but it's very entrancing. All in all, Linda Cube again is easily one of the most bizarre JRPGs to ever exist. It definitely will not resonate with everyone, but for some people this could become like one of your favorites ever. It's one of those type of games. If it looks interesting to you, give it a go for sure. The next game we have on our list is Tengai Makio: The Apocalypse 4. It was developed by Hudson Soft and Red Company and was released for the Sega Saturn. There was later a port to the PSP as well. Despite the 4 in the title, it's actually the 8th entry in a long-running series that never left Japan. Yeah, not a single one. Oh yeah, I should note the series is also known as Far East of Eden. We covered the Super Nintendo game, Tengai Makyo Zero, in our part 1, and that one does have an English fan translation though. Sadly, this one does not. Maybe one day some good Samaritans can take this task on though. Apocalypse 4 stands out for being the only game in the series to not take place in fictionalized Japan. Instead, it takes place in fictionalized 1890s America. Seeing all these real-life locations being depicted as completely inaccurate JRPG towns is super charming. Speaking of charm, look at these battle graphics. They're all hand-drawn and look so incredible. These are some of the most stylish turn-based battles I've ever seen. Battles themselves don't seem to be super complex, but from what I've gathered online, there are some kind of unique elements like sharing magic with all your party members and being able to form combo attacks. Other than that, I don't have too much else to say because, yeah, I have not played it myself. If it ever gets a translation though, you can bet your ass I'm gonna be on it. I know a lot of people that have played it consider it to be one of the very best Saturn RPGs. Coming up next, we have Just Breed. Yeah, either the publisher Enix or the developer Random House chose a pretty random name. In their defense, I think they mean just as in righteous, so like he's of a righteous breed, but yeah, that's not really the first thing people think of. Weird name aside, Just Breed is definitely a contender for the best NES RPG. This just makes it even crazier that it never left Japan. In retrospect, it's not hard to see why though. It came out in December of 1992. Not only was it halfway through the Super Nintendo's lifespan already, but the PlayStation came out in Japan not even 2 years later. Yeah, this one had zero hope of ever getting translated to English. It's a shame because for NES standards, it's really good. It's a tactical RPG with overworld exploration. Most tactical RPGs now still don't let you do this. I know for some people, this is a big enough selling point alone. Combat itself is fairly standard, however it does have some notable features. You control armies of 6 units that all have to move together at once. You can have up to 36 total units on the battlefield, it's kind of a lot. You can also heal from wherever on the battlefield too, so that's pretty cool. Story-wise, you're trying to stop an ancient evil from being resurrected by saving some priestesses. I mean, it's an NES RPG, story's not too important here. What is important though is that it does have an English fan translation. So yeah, if you're a fan of old school RPGs and want to see the best that NES has to offer, definitely try this one out. The next game we have on our list is Sokaigi. I think that's right, but not sure. It was released for the PS1 in 1998. Squaresoft published this game, but the company that actually developed it was Yuke's. Even though they didn't directly make it, it's still one of the most obscure titles Square has ever attached their name to. Even for you Square aficionados out there, I'm willing to bet a good amount of you haven't even heard of this one. I mean, it's Japanese only and to this day still doesn't have an English fan translation, so yeah, it makes sense. From what I've played of it, there might be a reason why. To the game's credit, there's a lot of really cool ideas. There's multiple playable characters with different movesets. There's a pretty in-depth skill and magic system. The setting and environments have a nice vibe. And yeah, it's got some cool things going for it. That said, it pains me to say that the gameplay is just not that great. Movement's a little stiff and attacking enemies is kind of janky. It's a shame because there's a lot of potential here. Presentation-wise, the game has a shit ton of cutscenes and voice acting. For a PS1 title, this amount is super impressive.
そんなの知るか。だいたいな、俺がその剣をやったのは頼神と戦うためじゃねえんだぞ。
もう遅いわよ。そうだ。防除班、やめるわ。
It's why the game needed 3 discs. By the way, look at how cool these are. However, the most impressive thing about Sokaigi is the OST. It was composed by Hiroki Kikuta, the guy behind the music in Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana. He really made use of that Squaresoft budget and utilized live orchestral music. This is hands down gotta be one of the best OSTs on the entire system, it's that good. Seriously, give it a listen on YouTube. It's too bad the actual gameplay doesn't have that same polish. I still would love to give it a full playthrough sometime though. If this does ever get an English translation, expect a retrospective. And to start off the second half of this list, we have Tales of Destiny Director's Cut. The original Tales of Destiny released for the PS1, and that one did come out in the West. This Director's Cut for the PS2 did not though. This sucks because to many people it's not only the definitive version, but it's also one of the best games in the entire series. First of all, the presentation and the gameplay is a huge improvement. I think this game is absolutely gorgeous. The sprites have so much charm and detail, and the backgrounds are incredible. I just love this 2D, 3D style, it's so good. The battle system is also much more polished. It's probably my favorite 2D combat in the series. The visuals and the gameplay were always my biggest gripes with the original, as I love the story and characters, so having these two things fixed here was perfect for me. In addition to this, there's also just a lot of extra content. Too much to name, really. One of the biggest inclusions, though, is the ability to play from the perspective of Leon. This is a really cool addition. Want to know the coolest thing, though? This one finally got a fan translation a few years ago. So yeah, if you're curious to check out some of the best the Tales series has to offer, there's no better time than the present. The next game we have on our list is Black Matrix. Black Matrix was developed by Flight Plan and initially came out for the Sega Saturn. However, it later saw enhanced ports to the Dreamcast and the PS1. The PS1 version is called Black Matrix Cross and what we'll be talking about today. The developer Flight Plan is a pretty obscure company that is probably best known for this series and the Summon Night series. The latter also largely never left Japan, but at least some entries did. Black Matrix, on the other hand, had 0 titles ever get translated. That unfortunately includes fan translations too. Kinda sucks, as I've always been curious about this series. I remember as a kid, I used to browse the RPG sections and websites like Game FAQs trying to discover new RPGs that never came out over here. And starting with the letter B, Black Matrix was a name I would consistently see all the time. That and other games like Baroque and the Atelier series. So when I saw a copy of the first game in Japan a few months ago for like $5, you know I had to pull that trigger. To be fair, even if it did come out in the West back in the day, my parents would have never bought me it. You see, whereas Summon Night is all lighthearted and cute, Black Matrix deals with heavy religious themes. Between the battle of heaven and hell, hell won and shaped society in their favor. Descendants of the devil rule the land, and descendants of angels are slaves where showing love and kindness can get you killed. Yeah, it took a lot of convincing for my parents to give me Xenogears. There's no way they would have got me this. I can't comment on the gameplay too much as I haven't played it, but it seems like a pretty fun tactical RPG system. The last thing I do want to point out though is the music. Dude, bangers galore. It's got a mixture of rock and hip hop and trip hop and Dude, it just absolutely slaps. Yet another overlooked, amazing PS1 OST. But yeah, if this title or any other entry in the series ever gets translated, I would love to check it out. Coming up next, we have Mystic Arc. Mystic Arc was developed by the company Produce and released for the Super Famicom. Yeah, the first Super Famicom game on the list. Most videos on this topic often focus on this system, so I wanted to show some love to other consoles. But yeah, the team behind the 7th Saga actually made this one. I know that just triggered some PTSD for some of you out there. That one did come out in the West and is infamously known as being one of the hardest JRPGs of all time. If you want to hear more about it, check out our video about difficult JRPGs that will challenge you. As far as Mystic Arc goes, it's kind of a sequel to the 7th Saga, but also not really. It was initially supposed to be released in North America as the 7th Saga 2, but that obviously never happened. Story-wise, it really has nothing to do with that game. However, the visual similarities are easy to notice. Battles look and play very similarly, they're just not nearly as hard. When it comes to the plot, it almost focuses more on an anthology of stories rather than a big overarching one. It's still there, it's just the structure of most of the game is more episodic. I'm adding this part in after the fact, but I did want to point out that Mystic Arc did actually get a sequel for the PS1. This one is not an RPG though. Instead, it's an adventure game. It looks pretty interesting. I'd like to check it out more one day. Before wrapping this segment up, I do want to point out how cool the concept art is here. It's got such a unique style. I like it a lot. Overall though, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really think Mystic Arc is an amazing game. It's not bad by any means, I'd say it's above average. It just gets a little boring as the game goes on. You gotta be an old school RPG enthusiast for sure. If that is you though, there's some enjoyment to be had here. And to finish off this list, we have Vern World. Yeah, I wanted to end this video with the most obscure one by far. There's probably a decent amount of you that have heard of every game up until this point. Until now. Vern World was released for the Super Famicom and was developed by the company Dual, a very popular developer that surely everyone knows for their beloved classic Tailspin on the Game Boy. In Vern World, you play as a dude trying to escape from a theme park based on real-life French writer Jules Verne. For the unaware, he wrote famous novels such as Journey to the Center of the Earth, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and Around the World in 80 Days. Not only are multiple characters from his novels in this game, but Jules Verne also is himself. Yeah, from what I've gathered, this is supposed to be a very wacky and zany game. Considering it hasn't gotten translated anywhere, I haven't been able to play it myself. It looks pretty fun though. Graphics have some charm, you can fight with like 5 people in turn-based battles it seems. And yeah, it just looks like a good time. Also, I gotta say, I really like the art in this game, both on the cover of the game itself and on the cover of the guide. They're very different, but are both really cool in their own way. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this game because I feel like very few people even know of its existence. While I can't speak on the quality, the uniqueness alone drives my curiosity for sure. Who knows, maybe one of these days we can finally get a fan translation.
Push it in! Work your body, work your body.
君たち
ゴエモンいろいろウルトラ楽しいマッハスペシャルロングセラーアクションゴエモンどれでもゴエゴエ頑張れゴエモン大人気
ゴエゴエ Konami
Check it out, check it out, yo.
Alright, and that about wraps up this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please either consider hitting that like button or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. What are some other good JRPGs that never left Japan? Let us know in the comments. Also, if you want to see a part 3 to this sometime, let us know about that too. There were so many other games I wanted to talk about here, but obviously we could only fit so many. As always, just want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters, and of course an extra special shout out to our top patrons, Chris Carnaccio, Derek Drost, Jesse Spencer, Jay Shaw Drums, and Jump Rock. All of your generosity and support is very much appreciated. Other than that, thanks again for watching, everyone, and hope you have an awesome day. This is Corbin from Gaming Productions. Until next time. いたずら